Welcome to the Department of Life Sciences podcast for Women at Imperial Week 2026. International Women's Day 2026 centres on the theme Give to Gain, the idea that progress happens when we intentionally give respect, voice, care, knowledge, opportunities, and resources to others. In a university community, that giving doesn't only apply in lecture theatres or laboratories. It happens in offices, technical spaces, meetings, emails, and everyday interactions that keep the system running. We're bringing together voices from across the Department of Life Sciences, from administration, technical teams, research, and teaching, to reflect on what giving has meant in their working lives and what we can all gain when equity and support are shared responsibilities.
In this episode, we are joined by Julie. Julie, could you tell us a little bit about your role at Imperial, a fun fact, or maybe even part of your role that you find most rewarding?
Hi, I'm a associate professor at Imperial. My research looks at the gut microbiome and human health. So how do the bacteria that colonize your intestine protect you from pathogens colonizing and causing disease? My favorite part of my job is probably the research side. But I also do a lot of teaching and a lot of, I guess you could say, service or admin or whatever you prefer to refer to it as. But I guess I feel like it's also probably like 5 or 6 other jobs on top of that sometimes, depending upon what the day is. But I think that's a very, very quick summary.
Good. And what motivated you to a career in microbiome research, but also within academia?
Yeah, I've always been one of those people who's just been very, very curious. I wanted to understand how things work. I've known for a very long time that I wanted to be a scientist, like from when I was in high school. And I knew I wanted to do research. I wanted to be able to be the first person to learn something. I thought that was really, really exciting. And yeah, it's just a curiosity, I guess. And specifically in where I went to university in my undergraduate degree, everybody studied one pathogen. And I was like, what's going to be the one bacteria I study for the rest of my life? This is a big commitment. I need to figure this out. And then I had a course in microbial ecology, and I was like, whoa, I can just study all of the bacteria and how they interact with each other and how they interact with the environment. In this case, I look at the host. And I didn't have to choose, so I didn't. And that's sort of how I ended up looking at the microbiome. Yeah, and I guess the other part in my job that I really also enjoy is training the next generation of scientists. So having someone start in the lab being very unsure, maybe a little bit nervous, and maybe needing a little more guidance first, and then seeing them sort of grow and become more independent and have them question me and push back to me about things. I really enjoy that as well. I really enjoy having sort of getting to that point where you can have almost like scientific debates with my trainees. It's really rewarding as well.
Yeah, good. And I think what it sounds like then is you're trying to kind of foster the curiosity in them as much as possible. And I guess at university level is allowing that curiosity to kind of manifest in debate and challenge. And I think that's really nice. And I think what would be quite nice to hear from is, would you say you were just naturally a more curious person?
It's a good question. I guess, I don't know if I have a great answer to that. I've always wanted to understand things. I like to be like a problem solver. Like even when people come to me with like non-scientific questions, I'm always trying to figure it out. So I think I just always have that want to understand things and to help people understand things. But I've just always had that for as long as I can remember. So I'm not sure where it came from. My lab kind of makes fun of me sometimes because I'm always so excited to get new data. Like I'm like, what day is this experiment done? Like when is the data come in? And I want to be the first person to go through that data with them. And they like laugh at me for that sometimes. They just want to know when I pop my head out, that's what I'm going to be asking about. Because I'm just like, I don't want to wait till next week. I just want to look at it now and see. I just can't wait the weekend. I see them get excited too. I think when they can see that I'm excited, they get excited to look at it.
I think that's really nice. It fosters a really nice morale within that research environment. And this year we have this theme of give gain. And I just wondered, it'd be quite nice to hear, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and it is really interesting because I feel like there's a lot of points in my career where I do feel like people have helped me, but almost in a way that is not visible, if that makes sense. So the little things that people have done that have helped me like the one thing I can think of when I was an undergraduate was having to write a lab report and not having really a great grasp on how to write as a scientist. I was still thinking about how to write as like maybe you write for like an English course or something. Like I was told that my writing was too flowery and trying to be too fancy. And I had a lab, someone who coordinated the undergraduate labs. She looked over some of my writing and she's like, you got to be more simple, just cut to the facts. And she just lists off ways to write things that I was just like, as an undergraduate, like, that sounds perfect. The way you say it, just off the top of your head, sounds perfect. But it really got me. She just took the time out of her day to go through my writing when she didn't have to, sit down with me and explain to me. And that, I just have carried that with me, throughout whenever I take my approach to writing. And that was just one little thing that she didn't have to do that I thought was really, really helpful. But even to, where I am in my career now, I have colleagues who've taken time out of their day to look at my grants or to look at my papers and to really take the time to sit down and read them and think about them. And so like even to this day, people are sort of giving back to me, if that makes sense. And it's just, I guess, like changing the way you think as a scientist, kind of. I really appreciate that people have done that for me. So I try to make sure I almost like give back, but to, not only my lab members, but I'll have people contacting me about, how, can you give feedback on this fellowship proposal and things like that. And, it's difficult because I think sometimes it can be very time consuming to do these things, but like people have done that for me, or like giving me an opportunity to work in the lab during the summer break. I try to help students, like that from that perspective, wherever I can, because someone did that for me when they didn't really have to. So yeah, I think it is really important. And I think especially, for the early career researchers in particular, it's make or break almost for just giving people opportunities as well.
Yeah, so you're talking about time and opportunity, which is really important. And I just wonder, in your own role, do you still carry on the same advice you received? Do you feel like that is something that you try and do in your lab group or within the sphere of influence that you have?
Yeah, I do. But I think the major thing is like time. You can't say yes to everything. And so it's like, from one hand, you want to like help how you were given back. But then the other hand, I have colleagues saying like, you can't say yes to everything. You got to prioritize your time. What's going to be the most impactful for you? So it's kind of trying to find that balance between, I guess like that is the number one thing. I think that probably for a lot of academics, you're trying to balance time. So I think wherever you can, I can, and wherever I have the time to, I try to, I guess, give back in ways that I think are impactful and optimizing my time.
Are there different ways that you've found to give back that allow you to still optimize your time as much as possible? So,
it's a good question. I mean, one thing that I do with my lab group, which is maybe I think can be really helpful, is sort of weekly lab meetings, which I know sounds very generic as an answer, but watching my lab members interact with each other in a way that's supporting each other and learning from each other. So I guess that's a way where everybody's together and it's not just a series of one-on-one meetings, but it's like almost like brainstorming sessions sometimes, or it's troubleshooting sessions, or just the way that we all come together as a group to support each other. It sounds maybe very oversimplistic, but actually I have seen people grow quite a bit just during these conversations and during those interactions, but also like fostering like a positive working culture where everyone is supportive, I think is really helpful.
You're talking about creating an environment and not just creating time, but the time that you do dedicate is actually being present.
Yeah, I agree. It's a busy time, but it's like I do feel like it's like a time where we get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, and thinking about that a little bit more, is like you've spoken really nicely about how these things can be invisible and not accounted for. Have there been times in your career when these types of contributions have been recognized?
Not so much. I do think that's something that would be nice I don't know how you would recognize that, but if there was some way to either carve out specific dedicated time for those sorts of activities, or if you are fitting them in, at least recognizing that those are things that you're doing. Because usually a lot, like, for example, reviewing people's fellowships, that's something that is very important, I think, and people did it for me, but nobody cares if you can say you've done it, but no one says, like, how many did you do? Did you do 2? Did you do 20? Like, no, it doesn't seem to really be captured anywhere that people recognize that. So I guess putting some value on sort of the support or giving back that you do would be nice, because maybe you encourage people to do it more, perhaps. I don't know. Yeah. Or at least like recognizing that if you are taking time away from certain activities, it's for a reason, not just for some black hole of where all this time went.
Yeah, and sometimes transparency within that really helps you to kind of realize, am I doing enough? Am I not doing enough? Am I doing too much of this? And how can we use that as a way to have equitable conversations around workload?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I definitely think, I do think there is a certain degree of not knowing how much you're doing relative to other people, not just for like these sorts of things, but sort of broadly speaking in the career. It's like difficult to measure on all aspects, I think, of this job, what you're doing relative to other people. So that is challenging.
And kind of thinking about a more reflective question, it'd be great to know what kind of advice you may give a younger version of yourself.
I think when I started a career in science, I didn't realize how many rejections you get, whether that's papers or grants. And the first time I had a paper rejected, I didn't realize that was like normal or common, I guess you might say. And I was like heartbroken. And then my supervisor was like, oh, it's fine. We'll just like revise and resubmit. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Like I had no idea. I was just like so new to it. But I think like it sounds perhaps cheesy, but just like having that resilience of like, people are going to say no, people are going to reject your applications, but like, it doesn't mean you give up. That, you know, you look, I think I didn't realize you almost learn more from rejections than you do successful applications sometimes. And so trying like to move past that initial like feeling of hurt of perhaps having a rejection, and whether it's whatever it might be, paper application, and like moving on to like, okay, well, like, how can I improve myself? Like, what's that next step? And like, not having that be the end, having that just be a point of learning. I had no idea about that when I started science. So I do feel like I have really had a crash course in sort of learning resilience, but I do think it is incredibly important. And I don't know how much people really think about that going in.
And how do you think that you developed that resiliency?
I think it was a lot of rejections, honestly. Whether it was papers, or I remember just trying to learn how to write like fellowship applications. I had no idea how to write a fellowship application. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. And I found, and this kind of gets back to the giving, some people were like more helpful with supporting those applications in terms of like giving feedback on them. I didn't really feel like I could reach out to people to say like, could you read over my application, because I felt like, oh, it's something I should do completely on my own, but like without knowing how to write the applications. And it wasn't till I had coworkers who had successful applications or had experience writing these applications who were willing to like look over mine and give feedback that I actually really started to learn what I should have been doing in the first place. And again, that's just like another example of someone taking their time, doing something they didn't need to spend doing, to look at my applications and give feedback and say, you know, this is how I would structure it because, and then just learning from that whole process has been really helpful as well. And also, like I had a fellowship that I submitted to the Wellcome Trust that got rejected at one point, and they even like sat down with me, invited me to their office, sat down with me, gave me feedback. So like they didn't have to do that. Like that was really kind of them. But just like all those little opportunities to learn, I think was really valuable. But like, I mean, it was lovely to get them all the first time. But like, I'm probably a much better writer now than I was back then because I had those rejections.
It sounds like you're a very motivated individual, or it seems like you're very driven to develop and to keep going. Was there anything that you did, whether that was in work or outside work, that kept you motivated?
I was thinking about this recently because I had someone, one of my students that are my personal TTs come to me, and they were asking me about academia, and they said, did you always want to be in academia? And I was like, yes, to the point where I didn't really have a backup plan. It was just like, I was so driven and I always knew that I wanted to do it, that I just kept going. And like, things didn't work out. That's fine. Learn from it, move on. I moved from Canada to the UK because I wanted to gain new skills that I felt like were available at Imperial. And that was obviously quite difficult in the sense of like leaving my family behind. So like having to make sacrifices to further my career, I guess. I'm very happy, obviously. I love my job. But yeah, it is difficult. It's not always it's not always, I guess I never predicted that would be, if you would ask me when I was, starting off my undergrad, where would I be living as an adult? I didn't think it would be in London. So yeah, it's sometimes kind of got to go with where your career takes you, I guess, sometimes.
I think what you're saying is your motivation came from the fact that you knew where you wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like I joke that when I got my lectureship, I felt like I won the lottery. I was just so pleased. And I felt like it was quite challenging to do, but I just felt so lucky, I guess, that I call it my dream job, that I feel like so lucky I got my dream job and I get to research what I want to research. I talk about how curious I am, and like I got to pursue the thing I was the most curious about. So I do feel very, very lucky and happy.
Good, which leads me to my last question, which is a bit more speculative, really, and it's a bit more outward facing. But if the powers that be, whether that be in the department, the faculty, the broader Imperial community, or even kind of HE sector within the UK, what's something that you would consider changing, considering this give to gain theme?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a bit, but I think, yeah, recognizing that a lot of us are doing, as I guess you'd call it, this invisible work of supporting people, and that shouldn't be discouraged. That should be encouraged for it. But yeah, recognize. And I know the Wellcome Trust has sort of talked in their applications. They've incorporated sort of how do you like incorporate a positive lab atmosphere, for example. And so even having on maybe on promotion paperwork, you could explain how you're supporting other colleagues or giving back to people. Makes it maybe sound like a selfish point of view maybe for doing it, but that's not what I mean. But just having some way where you can highlight all the things that you've done to try to give back, because I think a lot of us have benefited in the past, and I that's the only way I can really, well, it's I guess one of the ways I can think to try to at least recognize it. I think, I guess saying you're going to put it in maybe promotion paperwork feels a little self-centered of like, but I hope people want to do it also because they do want to just genuinely help people. Like I do feel like I do want to help people because people did that for me. Like not just because I want to get promoted, but because I want to help people learn, because I do, as I said, get excited seeing people improve, themselves as scientists. So not just from an advancement of my own career, but from a point of view of advancing other people as well.
Well, that is everything from me. And I would like to say thank you, Julie, for being part of this podcast. It's been really great to speak to you, hear about your career and your motivations and all the support that you've received. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you.